apportioned between the various 3 districts here in Brattleboro. And it was done so that if there was an issue that was real pressing, the old days they used to have the town meetings in the Gibson-Aiken Center on the basketball floor and upstairs in the balcony. And I can remember as a youngster when I was going to high school, we went just to see how the meetings went. And I bet there was about 1,500 people there. A lot of them didn't speak, but a lot of them went just for the idea of seeing what the involvement of the town was. And there was a tendency to think that maybe we were going to run out of space. So this basically does not in any way disenfranchise anybody in town, because the town districts elect their representatives. And the elected representatives then go to a series of meetings, basically usually a meeting of the school and a meeting of the municipality, which is held at night, so that everybody who's available can attend and who's been elected. And then the general meeting, which is held on Saturday this year, even though it's not held on the town meeting day. The town meeting day is basically just to make the people elected. And I think there's more democratic representation because you as a citizen in your district will get the list. When you go to the voting poll, you'll be able to choose whom you want, and you'll know who you can go and visit to tell them, listen, this is how I feel about this particular issue. If you can't visit them, you can call them, you can send them an email, and I think it opens up the lines of communication. Sometimes people feel that, well, it's the same old people. Well, it's the same old people, unfortunately, because new people don't get involved. Arthur is the exception to this. Arthur became old enough, and Arthur volunteered last year to become a new member with his father. Now, I've never watched the votes between the two, so I'm not sure who runs the show in the Davis family. But I think it's good to have young people, and I would encourage new people to get involved. It's a good way to know other people in Brattleboro, and it's a good process. It's a process that gives everybody who's elected an opportunity to participate, but also to represent their neighborhood and the constituents in that neighborhood.
It's interesting because I immediately thought of, I moved here from New York City, and when I first moved here, I became involved in some nonprofit organizations, which had me visiting several town meetings, and specifically I moved up to Westminster. So my first town meeting was actually Westminster. I've been to the Putney town meeting, I've been to Townsend town meeting, and so I was really I guess struck deeply with the intent, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, the reality of democracy in Vermont, and it really touched me. And I feel if you live here, it's important to involve yourself when you have this opportunity. Not only specifically to have the opportunity to vote on very tangible things that affect your town and the people you live with in your town, but also the fact that all of our elected representatives are so accessible, really immediately accessible. And I guess when you move to this area from other parts of the country, you realize what a luxury that is, because in other parts of the country you would have no opportunity at all to really affect change or to be a part of the process unless you were a professional politician. So I think I became a town meeting member once I moved to Brattleboro because of those reasons, because I felt that it was very important, and I'm very supportive of the democratic process, and I feel like it's my responsibility to be involved. And also, I love to learn. I mean, being involved in the discussions at town meeting and learning the specifics about the town budget and how decisions are made, and the effect that the charter will have on how decisions are made in the town as opposed to other ordinances, all that whole entire process I find fascinating, and so I like to learn about it.
I'm going to repeat a little bit of what the two previous speakers said. Like Tim, I grew up in Brattleboro, and I can remember being envious that people got to go to town meeting and make decisions. So I decided I wanted to have some of that. So when I came back after being in the service, one of the first things I did was put my name forward, and I was elected. That was back when there were 4 districts in town, and I was elected from district number 4, and now I live in district 2, and I represent that district. 2 other quick points. One, the basic building block of democracy is the citizen standing up and saying, hey, I want this, or I feel we should be doing that. And there is no method that man has devised that's more effective than people coming together in a group and discussing that. And secondly, as was pointed out, the fact that you get a lot of input from the public. I get stopped on the street, I get calls at home, etc. I'm sure the gentleman to my left gets a lot more calls and gets stopped a lot more frequently, but still, with 140 people out there representing the citizens in Brattleboro, that's a lot of people that can take comments and pass on how people feel and what they want from the town. So, and it was every bit as good as I thought it was going to be.
As Tim mentioned before, last year I had turned 18 the summer before, and I've always been really interested in things going on, both in town and on a more broad spectrum. And I thought it was really important for me to both, as we mentioned before, as a learning experience, to sort of see how decisions are made, and I don't know, be a part of that. And I think I learned a lot last year, and that's why I'm running again. But I think it's really important to have, to really have a broad, diverse group of people come that really represent different parts of the town and the population in town. And so, although there were not too many people my age there last year, I think it's important to have, different voices from different ages, different professions, whatever. And I thought that really struck me last year as something that I think was really, really great, was that there was people from all over town and different parts of the community coming together to discuss things and make decisions that will affect all of us.
I think that with this unique structure that everyone has described, it also carries with it a very unique responsibility, and that's the responsibility to participate. And so we wanted to create an opportunity for more people to learn about this in the hopes that first, maybe there's some people that think this is an overwhelming responsibility, that they can't participate in the process because it's too much. And we wanted to make an attempt to dispel that because it's simply not true. But also, more generally, to put out there the concept that this responsibility, because we live in this unique environment, is on all of us. And so we don't want there to be a ton of open positions. I think there are 56 slots at last check for this year for town meeting members, and we want those positions to be filled, and maybe even have some contested elections in there, but to convey to everyone that with this unique structure, we have this responsibility to participate, to embrace the structure that we have. So my hope is that a lot of people turn out. Certainly, I would love to get more younger people, however you want to define that, be it under 70 or under 30, however you want to define that. Certainly more women, and it would be great to get more people of color running for town meeting reps. So hopefully this is, someone would be watching this or reading this or listening to this and think, oh, I can do that. I live here and I want to participate in this process, because as Kathy said, having lived somewhere else, it's really unique. And and we want to give everybody that opportunity. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to organize some very low maintenance for people that are, after they're elected, organize very low maintenance, maybe even 15-minute orientation sessions for new members, totally optional, so that if someone has questions or they want to talk about the process once they're elected, before they're just kind of thrown into the big mix, they will be able to get those questions answered. So even more, we hope that greases the wheels to someone thinking, oh, I can do this.
Thank you.
Can I say one thing more? When I went to high school, they had pictures of the 4 freedoms in the hallway. One of them was the freedom of speech. And that shows a picture of a man standing up in town meeting and speaking. That alone is nothing. The real thrust of the picture was everybody else was listening. So please, don't feel that you will be unheard. This is a chance for you to be heard. So we really encourage anybody that has something they feel they would like to say, or even if they just want to learn, please take out an application. It's only 10 signatures. If you're from District 2, I can certainly help you get signatures. So please, if you're considering, make the big step.
I would just like to add, I was going to comment on the same thing you did. That's really all we're looking for, are candidates who care about where they live, where they make their home, and actually have an opportunity to change what happens in your life. People complain about taxes, they complain about this, they complain about that, but this is your opportunity to make some changes and to affect something happening. And I sort of liken being a representative town meeting to sort of what every other registered voter in the state of Vermont gets to do just by registering to vote. Because Brattleboro is the only town in Vermont that has representative town meeting. Some towns have town meetings where anyone that's registered to vote may attend and vote, and others have gone to Australian ballot, where all of their articles are just voted in the voting booth. But if you lived in another town in Vermont and they have open town meeting, you can just go and speak your mind and vote the way you want. This is your chance in Brattleboro to do that, only you are representing not only yourself, you're representing your neighbors. And that doesn't mean you have to vote a certain way that a neighbor particularly says you need to vote. You are elected to do what is best for your neighborhood, for your district. And people trust when they elect you that that's how you will vote, to do the best you can for your district. I worry sometimes, I recall times when we would have 30 candidates running for 15 positions, and it was great. But sometimes the past few years, I think it's dwindled, so sometimes we don't have enough candidates to even fill the positions that we have. I'm hoping that maybe people will listen to this and decide that really it's something that they can do. You don't need to be a rocket scientist, you just need to care and want to affect some changes. And as I said, we are the only one in Vermont that has representative town meeting, and the representatives take their position seriously. There isn't a lot of time commitment. There are a few informational meetings. And as Ken said, we thought maybe we would get something together, do a little orientation for a few minutes, just to acquaint you with what the procedures are, how the day is going to go. But other than that, usually that one day for the annual meeting, you're not called upon all that often. So it's not really that big a time commitment. If you're interested, I can tell you, each district has its own number of town meeting members, depending on population. District 1 has 45 representatives, District 2 and District 3 each have 42. And each year, a third of those people are up for election. An average term is a 3-year term, although you'll often see some 1- and 2-year terms, and that's because someone has resigned, someone has moved away. So you're really being elected, if you're only being elected for a 1 year, you're basically being elected for a 3-year term with 1 year remaining, is what it is. So this year we're looking for 15 people to run for 3 years in District 1, 14 people in District 2, and 14 people in District 3. Now each of those districts also have available a couple of 1- and 2-year terms to filling out someone else's term. But it's pretty simple. You just come into the office, or you can email me or call me, and we'll do a petition for you. You need 10 signatures from your district. We can give you a map of your district. It's basically your neighborhood. The map is also on the town website, voting districts, and it's brattleboro.org. So you get your petition, you get your 10 signatures. I assume if you're taking out a petition, you're a registered voter, so you can sign your own petition. As Marshall said, he'll help you if you're in District 2, and I'm sure any of the other districts you'll find plenty of help. The petitions need to be back to the town clerk by 5 o'clock on January 30th. And that's all there is to it. And then you'll be notified if you have won the day after the election. We mail out certificates of election, so you'll find out. If it's not in the newspaper, you'll receive notice in the mail, and you'll also receive information on when you can get your packets and when the meetings are, when the informational meetings will be. And you don't go into this cold. You don't just appear on that day. The town puts out a town report, and in this town report are all the budgets, there are narratives from all of the departments. Anything that will be voted on at that town meeting is included in the town report. The actual warning for the meeting is in the town report, so you'll know exactly what all of the articles are to be voted on, and there may be some background on some of them. If there's a big article for a big purchase for a bond issue or something, there'll be some background on whatever that topic is. So you don't go into it cold. You do have information when you go into it. The meetings start on a Saturday. They're always on a Saturday morning. They are on, the annual meeting is always on the third Saturday after the first Tuesday in March. And that calculation is based on really 3 Saturdays after the election of local elections. And you would be voted in in the local elections on March 6th, and then you would come for the representative town meeting on March 24th this year. And I worry sometimes that we could change from this form of government to voting all the articles by Australian ballot, as some larger communities have. And the drawback with that is there's no discussion. You go into the voting booth and you vote yes or no on all the articles with no one to bounce it off from. I mean, there have been plenty of times when I've gone to town meeting myself thinking I had made my decision and I knew how I was going to vote, when after hearing debate, realized, oh, there was a lot more to this story than I realized, and it has changed my vote. And I think that's important, that we listen to each other and accept others' ideas and vote for the good of the community.
I think thinking about other people my age who I've talked to about politics and such, I think sometimes people think a lot more, maybe because it's in the news more and whatnot, about maybe state and national and global issues, which are very important as well. But I think it's really important to sort of be grounded in where you are. And I think town meeting is a really important way to be able to say, you know, this is where I live, and what's happening here also really matters to my life in a very immediate way. So
I think it sort of goes along with what I hear people saying. Some people only come out to vote every 4 years for president because that's what matters. But really, to affect a change on your everyday life, that isn't only what matters. It's town meeting. This is the basics. This is your daily, day-to-day, and your property taxes, and if your road is going to be plowed, and if your sidewalk is going to be maintained, and if you're going to have a fire truck to be able to come and put out a fire if you have a fire at your house. So there's a lot to be said for local government, and as Marshall said, that's where it all begins. These are the basics. So we're hoping that people will listen to this and decide it's for them, and take out petitions, and we'll be more than happy to get that name on the ballot for them.
I guess I would just like to reiterate, when I talk to people about becoming a town meeting member, and I start to describe it, the first reaction I get is this concern that there's a huge amount of time commitment involved. So I just want to reiterate, this is 2 nightly meetings to learn and then one Saturday meeting a year. And generally, a year goes by and you don't have to do anything else unless we have a specific thing coming up. So it's not a huge commitment. Anybody can do it, really. Anybody can do it.
That's right.